Why you are wrong about women hitting the wall when they hit 30 or around age 30. Part 2. This is the second video I've done on this. This is actually a follow-up to the first video I did on this. And so about a year ago, I did a video, it was one of my more trafficked videos, about how red pill manosphere guys, at least many of them, maybe not all of them, but many of them, have this view about women who hit the wall. Meaning when they hit 30 or around 30, they suddenly or eventually or begin to become much less attractive or much less attractive to high value men or alpha males. And in that video, which by the way, I will link to below, and frankly, if you want to see that video for context, you can just click right there. There it is, where I go through the entire thing, go through my entire argument. I made an argument in that video, and I had a question in that video that I asked about 3 or 4 times in the video that I wanted the audience to answer. And you will be surprised to find that virtually no one answered that question. Instead, a lot of people got upset. And I will explain to you why, and I will actually show comments of what they said and my response to those comments. This is going to be fun. I am, of course, Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0. I make a multi-6-figure location-independent income while traveling the world and dating multiple attractive women, and I show men like you how to do the same thing. And if you're curious why the background is a little different, I am actually in my hotel room here in Armenia. I'll be here for a few weeks. There's a video coming up about that. But to the point, the history of this is that for many years, I have seen people in the manosphere / red pill world, many people, not 1 or 2, many men, and this is a critical point because some guys are going to deny this later. Many men make comments and statements on the internet basically saying, ooh, gross, she's hit the wall. Why would anyone date her? And they would say this about women who are in their early 30s or maybe a little older who were still reasonably attractive, but these men would say things like, and I'm being literal about this, why would you possibly want to have sex with a woman who's hit the wall? Why would you possibly date a woman who's past the wall? Why would you possibly marry a woman who's hit the wall? And I saw that over and over and over again, so I finally last year decided to make a video addressing these gentlemen. And in that video, I made one error, which I'll cover in a second, but I basically said, okay, if that is your viewpoint, if your viewpoint is women become less attractive when they hit the wall or start becoming less attractive, then what is your plan long-term for you? If you have the viewpoint that any woman over the age of 30 is less attractive, what are you going to do when you marry this fantasy hot younger girl of your guy Disney dreams, and then she hits age 30, 35, 40, 45? What are you going to do? When you are 45, 55, 65, what are you going to do? Give me a specific answer to what you're going to do long-term in your life, not right now when you're 26, not right now when you're 31, not right now, long-term, when you become an old man like me. What exactly is your long-term plan for this if you think women over 30 or around 30 are gross or becoming gross or become gross by the time they're 40? What are you going to do? Are you just going to get married and divorced and married and divorced and married and divorced 47 times? You're going to marry a 20-year-old and as soon as she hits 30, you're going to divorce her and then marry the next one and marry the next one and just be divorced 8 or 9 times like Larry King? Is that your objective? What exactly is your plan? And I asked that question in that video multiple times. I said, please, you guys who think women hit the wall and then they're unattractive, please tell me what your plan is. And if you go to that video and you read the comments, and I'll pull a few up in this video a little later, you will quickly see that not one person who disagreed with me on this topic, not one guy answered the question. I think 2 guys in the entire comment thread did answer my question, but they're guys who agreed with me. They said, you don't marry a woman just for looks, you settle down with a woman regardless of how she looks, and you build a relationship based on other things besides her physical appearance, which is my viewpoint. Yes, I purposely went out of my way to marry a woman who was about age 35. This is even before I met Pink Firefly. That's who I wanted to settle down with. I consciously made that decision for a lot of reasons I've discussed in prior videos. But the only guys who answered my question, 2 of them, are guys who agreed with me. Every other guy who said, wall, older women are gross, and older women don't have the SMV once they hit 30, and they become bitchy when they hit 30, and blah, blah, blah. Points that I don't necessarily disagree with on certain levels. I've discussed these things at a lot of my blogs and my books and things like that. None of those guys gave me the answer of what they plan on doing long-term in their lives with a specific plan. It was all a bunch of philosophy and theory. And my point here is it's very nice and perfectly fine to have a strong philosophy. But what you have to make sure of is that philosophy translates correctly to real life, the way real life actually is. This is a challenge with a lot of hardcore left-wing socialists. This is a challenge with a lot of hardcore Christians. They have these strong philosophies that don't actually plug in very well to the real world. And so you can walk around and act tough all you want about how you're never going to date a woman over 30 for the rest of your life. 70s, 80s, 90s, never. You're never going to do this. You're never going to settle down. But in terms of real life has different plans for you. And if you want evidence of this problem, you can go look at those comments and see that not one person who disagreed with me, who was very strong about women hitting the wall, women becoming unattractive when they hit the wall, answered my question. If there was something wrong to what I was saying, you should have had slews of guys come in and say, Caleb, you're wrong. I totally believe in the wall. Women over 30 are unattractive or start becoming unattractive. And knowing this, here's my exact plan for the rest of my life in my 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. Here's my exact plan, and here's how I'm going to make it work. Yet I didn't get one. That should tell you something about having a strong philosophy that doesn't match the real world. Now, one thing that did occur in that video, and you'll see this in the comments, is I went a little overboard in my language in that video. And I said in that video that the wall means as soon as a woman hits 30, she becomes unfuckable. She becomes gross and disgusting. That's not accurate. I was overstating it because I was sort of copying all the men's comments that I had seen up until that point, the men I was responding to. So I probably should have mediated my language a little bit and been more specific about the language and the definition of the wall, meaning there's lots of definitions, but the most common one with guys in those comments said was when a woman hits the wall, her SMV starts to drop and she is no longer attractive to men of high value. Okay, fine, but that doesn't change my point at all. What are you going to do if women over 30 are less attractive and women under 30 are perfectly fine to marry? What are you going to do when a woman turns 30? What's amazing to me is I have seen these comments, including on my own blogs historically, of guys bitching and moaning about how women get disgusting or start getting ugly when they hit the wall. And these guys are married to women who are like 28, 29, 27, women almost ready to turn 30. And I've asked those guys, and if you've read my blogs a long time and you read the comments years ago, I would challenge these guys and say, what are you going to do then? You're going to divorce your wife as soon as she turns 30? Then what? Is that what you're going to do? And the response I get from these guys is nothing. It's crickets. Because they don't have an answer. They have a philosophy. They don't have a plan. Alpha Male 2.0 is not just a philosophy. There's philosophy behind Alpha Male 2.0, but you'll notice that everything I teach is technique-based within the real world, how the real world is. I don't just go around saying, hey, you got to find a virgin and marry her and be a Christian and everything will work out fine, when I have no stats and no data to back that up. And guys who say that don't have stats and data to back that up either. You'll notice I don't take my philosophy and then give you a bunch of weird shit to do that's not going to work in the real world or has very low odds of working in the real world. Now let's get to the responses of what guys said in those comments in that last video and my responses to the responses. You're going to see a lot of what I mentioned in that prior video, Guy Disney. Guy Disney is this magical fantasy that men have, usually red pill men or more right-wing men tend to have this fantasy that somewhere out there is this perfect girl. She's 18 years old. Ideally, she's a virgin. If not, she's had sex with just one or two guys a few times. She's totally inexperienced. She's the exact religion that I want. And she's totally submissive. And she's beautiful and perfect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find her. She's out there somewhere waiting for me. Maybe she's in another country, but she's out there somewhere. And I'm going to find her and I'm going to marry her. I'm going to move in with her, marry her. Now, if you're not getting married, then maybe settling down with her. Maybe you don't get legally married. I'll cover that in a moment. But I'm going to settle down with her in a monogamous traditional arrangement and everything will work perfectly for the rest of my life. I will never get divorced. She will never divorce me. She will always have sex with me whenever I want. She will never say no to sex because I'm alpha and she's a perfect little submissive Christian virgin who will do whatever I want for the next 57 years of my life. That's Guy Disney, and it's all a bunch of horse shit. It's just as bad as Girl Disney, which is even worse, but both Disneys are bullshit. They don't actually occur in real life, and if you look at the statistics, you will see very clearly these don't work. As I've said many times, if marrying a young virgin and being alpha worked, if that made long-term monogamy worked, you would see millions of men in the manosphere world, in the red pill world. Millions, not one or two, millions. Thousands on the internet saying, hey, I've been married for 17 years. I married a virgin. Everything's great. We have sex every day. It's awesome after 17 years of marriage. You don't see that, do you? Because it doesn't work. These guys end up getting divorced. These guys end up getting cheated on, or these guys cheat and then have problems, or these guys cheat themselves and have problems. I've discussed that numerous times, numerous videos, numerous articles. So you're about to see that in a lot of the responses you're going to see in the last video. Now, one of the more common responses that I received was, no one has really said that. People in the red pill don't say that, Caleb. They don't say that they would never fuck a woman over 32. Wrong. I've seen numerous comments like this all over the red pill world for years. That's why I decided to make that video. Do you think I just made this up? Do you think I was sitting down one day thinking I should make a video on, I don't know, I have no ideas, I guess I'll make something up? No. Do you think I saw one or two of these comments and decided to devote an entire YouTube video to one or two comments I saw on the internet? No. Numerous times. And so guys were saying things like, oh no, people in the red pill don't say that. Or another variation they said was, well, no real red pill guy would say that, or no real intelligent man would say that, or, you know, maybe you saw some guys say that, but they're not real red pill. Or, you know, Caleb, you were hanging out in the wrong part of the red pill world. If you were hanging out with cool red pill people, then they wouldn't say stupid things like that. So I don't know what you're talking about. This is a very common tactic of people in the red pill world and more right-wingish Trump supporter people. When I used to talk about Donald Trump or Donald Trump supporters more specifically, and I would quote guys all over the internet saying, you know, I will support Donald Trump as long as he does what Steve Bannon says. And then Trump fired Steve Bannon, and I brought that up, that a bunch of guys said, okay, you're gonna stop supporting Trump now? And all these Trump supporters said, oh, no real Trump supporter would say that. No real conservative would say that. Let me explain something to you. When you're part of a group or a philosophy, you can't conveniently pick the parts that you like, the logical parts, and lean into those and look at all the other crazy statements that people on your team say and just ignore them. I don't do that. I'm a libertarian. And I have said before, I've admitted it many times, and I've given some examples at my blogs, sometimes libertarians say really stupid, insane shit. And when they say stupid, insane shit, I don't get defensive about it. I don't say, well, that's not a real libertarian, or no libertarian would ever say that. Those aren't real libertarians. Those are the dumb ignore that. Libertarians don't say that. No, libertarians sometimes say stupid shit. And you guys have people in the red pill world, a lot of them, who apparently say stupid shit like, who would ever have sex with a woman over the age of 32 or whatever? I'm sorry, a lot of people say that. And if you don't like that, fine, but they do say that, and you have to acknowledge that people in your philosophy, the red pill world, and again, I agree with most red pill concepts, not all of them, but most of them, you have to admit this. You can't just say, oh, I didn't say that, or no, my friend didn't say that, or no, none of the cool red pill people say that. I'm sorry they say that. They say it a lot. They're still saying it. That's why I made a video about it. The next common response was, the most common response was that people were saying that I was oversimplifying the definition of the wall, and that is true, I did. So you'll notice if you look at that video and look at the comments, I put a pinned comment and I said, okay, I'm sorry, the definition of red pill is not she turns 30 and she's unfuckable. The definition is whatever you guys say it is. Okay, she starts losing SMV and she's no longer attracted to high value men and blah, 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 and she becomes more demanding on dates, which I've talked about ad infinitum at my blogs, my books. Yes, that's true. Fine, that's the definition. Now answer my question, please. What is your long-term plan? And still, no one who disagreed with me answered the question, not one person. So it didn't help them at all. The next response I got, a common response, is a response I see a lot, and a response that I have already discussed many times in my other content, is guys just saying, I'm gonna stay single forever. I'm just gonna stay single forever. Wrong. And I've discussed this many times in many other places. I'm not going to do a whole thing on this because I've already discussed this in great detail. The odds are overwhelming that eventually the vast majority of you red pill guys, you manosphere guys, whatever you want to call yourself, the vast majority of you guys, not normal beta males, you guys will eventually settle down with a woman. No, maybe you won't legally marry her, and that's probably a good thing. You shouldn't legally marry a woman. I've discussed that for 15 years. Of course not. But the odds are overwhelming that when you cross age 35, certainly in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you're not going to want to be alone banging chicks at clubs. Are there a small category of men who do this? Yes. Is there a teeny tiny little sliver percentage of men who do this? Yes. Those are the unusual exceptions. And I'm sure I'm going to hear from some of these guys in the comments. Caleb, I'm 52 and I just bang chicks and I bang sugar babies. It is great. Wonderful. You are a rare exception to the rule. The vast majority, 90% plus of guys who are now 25, 27, 31, saying, I'm never going to get married, I'm never going to move into a woman, I'm never going to be single, I'm going to be single the rest of my life, are going to get a live-in girlfriend. Just watch. And I have lived a long time. I have personally seen friends of mine who said this back in the early, 90s or late 80s or whatever, and they moved in with women just like everybody else, including alpha males, including pickup artists, including red pill guys. They almost all of them, eventually end up living with someone. It's really easy when you're 26 to act tough and act cool and say that I'm never moving in with a woman. It's really easy to say that when you're 26. Let's see you say that when you're 42, 47, 55, 61, hell, even 37. As I've analyzed many times, when most men, the vast majority, including men in the red pill world, cross the threshold into age 35 and above, they start to want to settle down. They don't necessarily need to get married. Maybe you'll never get legally married, and that's great. But you will probably settle down. And that means you've got to come up with a plan for how you're going to deal with this women are less attractive once they hit the wall thing. Make sense? Now I'm going to bring up comments and show you on the screen and respond to specific comments I got in that thread. Before I do that, there's a few things you need to do. You need to subscribe to this channel. You need to click the dumb notification bell. You need to like this video, and you should leave a comment about how wrong I am about the wall. You should leave a comment about how I'm wrong and I'm stupid, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and no one should listen to me. Please leave a comment and tell everybody how wrong I am. Very, very important. Okay, I'm going to bring up some comments on the screen here and I'll read them. I have them down here. And get ready, you're going to see a lot of either stupidity or a lot of Guy Disney in these comments. And the reason I'm showing you these comments is I want to demonstrate to you what this means. When people defend themselves and they act stupid, or when they defend themselves and they get irrational, and when men get irrational, they usually lean into Guy Disney. I'll demonstrate that right now. So first comment, got a guy who says, Caleb Jones says the wall isn't here, but he admits it's real. He says he's regularly screwed girls who are 19. Yes, many, and 18, and 20, and 21. Why not 39, 49, or 59? He is disingenuous. Okay, so either this person is lying or this person has no idea who I am. I have talked about many times how I have had sex with many women in their 30s, women in their 40s. I've also had sex with at least one woman in her 50s, and it was great. I have said over and over and over and over and over again at my videos, my blogs, I think women in their 30s and 40s are really hot as long as they don't get fat. When they start getting fat, then we have a problem. As long as they don't get fat, women in their 30s and 40s are really attractive. I think they're great. I have had sex with at least, I don't know the exact number, I could look it up on my spreadsheets. God, at least 25, probably 30 women in their 30s or 40s, probably more than that. So incorrect. As always, I walk my talk. I live what I talk about. I don't have a set of philosophies and a set of actions. They are the same thing. They are one and the same. And my philosophies directly reflect the real world. Older women are really attractive and younger women are really attractive. Now, most women I've had sex with were younger women. Yes. I've talked about the various reasons for this. The reason today is I'm married. I'm in a non-monogamous marriage. And so women over 33 get a little weird about that because they want to be your girlfriend. 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 24-year-olds, they don't care if you're married. So there you go. So even though I've been with a lot of younger women, it's not because I thought women who hit the wall were gross. I've never, ever had that viewpoint unless they were overweight or they really did something horrible to their bodies. They smoked cigarettes for 15 years or they were drug addicts. They just destroyed their bodies. That's of course different. Not talking about those women. So wrong-o, nice try. Okay, this next comment is a little long. He made several points. I'm going to cover several of them. The first one is, as to the actual point, you're kind of missing the point. You put too much emphasis on women's looks and not enough on character, lifestyle, and personality. That is the point that men are making when they say that women over 30 are not as desirable anymore. Why? Because they're not as good looking. That's what these men are saying. You seem to be under the impression that men are only attracted to looks. Again, what is the number one factor as to why men say women over 30 have hit the walls? Because of how they look. Hello? If women get physically and sexually desirable after 30, then how are you going to manage a life with them when they're 60? Right, that's the question I'm asking to guys who believe in this hardcore wall concept. By the way, I'm not saying the wall is incorrect. I'm saying, what is your plan if you believe this? The wall and physical desirability, although important, isn't the primary issue. Incorrect. Wrong. The primary issue is physical desirability. So now you're warping the argument in order to make an argument, which means you don't have an argument. The problem is that women abuse their bodies and sexuality during their peak years and then only look for a man when their looks fade and they can't get when their looks fade. You just contradicted your own point. And they can't get in a relationship with the sexually desirable men they want to sleep around with, and the average men who they ignored. I'm going to move this on. Let's see. The way traditional monogamy works, here comes the guy, Dizzy. Get ready for this. The way traditional monogamy works, long-term traditional monogamy does not work. The statistics are overwhelming. Your own personal experience is overwhelming. In the Western world, in the modern era, long-term traditional monogamy does not work. Moving on. The way traditional monogamy works, it doesn't, is that women invest in a man in a relationship. Here comes the guy, Disney. Women invest in a man in a relationship and show character and personality during their peak years. Then when they decline, men repay their virtue and loyalty, is this a right winger or what? By staying with them during their post-wall years. Again, I suggest, sir, you look at the divorce statistics and show me the statistics that back up what you're saying. They don't back up anything you're saying. They back up what I'm saying, that long-term monogamy doesn't work. The real divorce rate in most of the Western world is around 76%. And that number, by the way, is going up. The marriage rate is going down, which is good. But among the people who get married, the divorce rate is going up. By the way, we could also factor in all the live-in monogamous relationships of people who don't get married. They break up too at about the same rates. Moving on to his next point. You vastly overestimate the number of guys in the red pill community who will get married. Right, I don't mean married, I mean settling down. And I'm not overestimating that number. That's 90% plus. 90% plus of guys in the red pill community will eventually move in with a woman, and most likely, not 100%, but likely it'll be monogamous. Yes, and I will stand by that. That is absolutely true. Whether or not you get legally married is not relevant to me. And I've mentioned this before. But anyway, moving on. There's a difference between being in a long-term monogamous relationship and being married. I agree. Slight differences. There's some legal differences, and that's it. In terms of your lifestyle, there's no difference. You're a married guy. If you live with a woman and you're monogamous, you're living the lifestyle of a married man. The only difference is some legalities. But your day-to-day life, there is no difference. And I've talked about this before when I talk about managing a non-monogamous marriage. By the way, I wrote the book on that. You can go to open-marriage.com, and that's how to be settled down with a woman, but still being allowed to have sex with other women on the side. That's what I've got. You don't have to marry them. Matter of fact, you shouldn't get legally married. But when you settle down with a woman, it's better to have sex with women on the side as part of the relationship parameters than getting involved in monogamy, which we know for a fact doesn't work. You can be with a girl for a long time in a committed relationship without being married to her. Correct. Actual marriage means very little these days anyway. It is largely a dying institution in the West. Correct and irrelevant to the point. All right, his next point. Oh boy, here we go. You fail to include the power of spinning plates and grooming. He's telling me I fail to include the power of spinning plates. I'm Black Dragon. I wrote the book on how to spin plates. HaveOpenRelationships.com. You can go get it. The Ultimate Open Relationships Manual. For 15 years, I've been living the lifestyle of spinning plates. I'm still doing it. So again, either this guy is stupid, or he is lying, or most likely, he has no idea who I am. This is why it's very dangerous on the internet to find someone, you just see one video that person did or one article that person wrote, and you make a bunch of assumptions about that person when you don't know who the fuck you're talking about. You end up looking really, really stupid. I'm not saying this person is stupid. I'm saying he just made himself look really stupid because clearly he has no idea who I am. And if he does know who I am, then he's really stupid. I have a feeling he just doesn't know. So this is my point. When people get defensive, they start saying crazy shit that makes no sense. I don't understand the power of spinning plates. I'm one of the only men on the internet who talks about how to spin plates. You see my point about when people get defensive, they get irrational and stupid? You see what I'm saying? Anyway, moving on. Spinning plates will straight up allow you to filter through many more women and choose the better one. Correct. I talk about that in my primary book, The Unchained Man. It's called The Cream of the Crop Method. Again, I wrote the book on these topics. Correct. So you've got a better quality woman straight off the bat. Correct. That's what I did. But you still don't want to be monogamous. Long-term monogamy doesn't work. Men hate long-term monogamy, and so do women. Grooming, if done successfully. Okay, here's more Guy Disney. Here's some more right-wing, traditional Guy Disney stuff. Get ready. Grooming, if done successfully, will condition and train her for the relationship. Yes, if you groom her, she'll never divorce you. Show me the stats on men who do that. Show me the long-term marriage and divorce stats on men who actually try this. Okay? Separating her from sexualizing social media validation? Yes, so what are you going to do? Are you going to take her phone away from her and never let her use it? Are you going to take away her computer and to make sure she never uses social media? How are you going to monitor that every day? How are you going to make sure she never goes on social media? Again, philosophy versus the real world. This person, like many red pill guys, are living in a philosophical world. They're not living in the real world where you have to actually implement real things with high odds of success. Separating her from her promiscuous friends? How are you going to do that? How are you going to enforce that? Oh, I'd love to watch you try this, dude. I'd love to actually watch you try this stuff in real life. And getting her around modest and respectable friends. You're going to make friends for her. You're going to go find her friends. And you're going to do this with a woman who lives in the Western world. Now, if you live in parts of Asia, parts of the Middle East, okay. If you live in the Western world, she's going to do all this shit. She's going to say, yes, master. Find friends for me, master. Yes, master. I will do whatever you want, master. This is the world these guy Disney people live in. And teaching her homely qualities such as cooking and cleaning, oh my God, will remove a huge probability of affairs by increasing her investment in your relationship. Okay. Again, if you're talking about parts of Asia, parts of Africa, parts of Middle East, maybe. Western world, no. After reading this, I want this guy to go do this. I want this guy to try this. I want this guy to find a Western woman and start restricting her social media access and restricting her friends and teaching her how to cook and clean so that she'll stay faithful to him. You see my point? Are you getting my point? All right, moving on. This guy was fun. The only older guys that I could see having access to 19-year-olds that aren't prostitutes or escorts would be college professors. I guess, again, this is a guy who doesn't know who I am and or is being defensive or stupid. And I responded there factually incorrect by a wide margin. For many years, I was having sex as a man in my 40s with 18-year-olds through 23-year-olds. I wrote an entire book on exactly how to do it called The Ultimate Younger Woman Manual. The link is below here. It's a little complicated, so I won't say it, but there's the link there. And this was before sugar daddy game. I never gave these women a penny. 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds in long-term FBs and very long-term MLTR relationships. And I was not only in my 40s, but I was much chubbier than I am now. How do you explain that? Incorrect. This is another challenge with a lot of red pill guys. Well, once you get over age, and I've had guys say this to me, once you get over age 30, man, you have to pay for sex if you want an 18-year-old. No 18-year-old would ever fuck a 30-year-old for free. That would never happen. I've had guys say this, once you get over 40, I had guys say this to me back then when I was like 38, 39, 37. Hey man, you fuck these younger girls now, but when you turn 40, it's all over, man. You won't be able to do it. I had more sex with younger girls in my 40s with no money spent than I did in my 30s. Wrong-o. Today I do some sugar daddy game because of my lifestyle, my travel lifestyle. I don't stay in one place very long. I have to kind of do that. Plus I'm married. It makes my wife more comfortable. So I do a mix today. But for years and years and years, I was having sex with women this age, and a lot of you in the audience were too, who are my age or older. All right, this is another one of these denying the physicality thing, okay? Here's another one of these. The wall has little to do with how she physically looks after 30. Incorrect. That is the primary complaint that wall guys use about women who are over 30. That's the primary complaint. Is it the only complaint? No. I have talked about not 30, but women over age 33, how they get very demanding on first and second dates, how the ASD skyrockets, how you really shouldn't expect to get laid on a first or second date with a woman over the age of 33. You're gonna have to wait 3, 4 more dates because ASD is so high, particularly if you're doing an online dating scenario. Yes, I've discussed those things ad nauseum. But for you guys to say that looks has nothing to do with it or it's not the primary factor is factually incorrect. And if you don't believe me, go ask one of these red pill guys about how they'd never fuck a woman over 30 or never fuck a post-wall woman and ask them why. And the first thing out of their mouths is going to be because of how they look. Moving on, the wall is simply a psychological moment. A woman realizes she can no longer compete with younger women, younger than her, or with younger version of herself. Yes, that's a big part of it too. For example, Shakira, the singer, still looks hot at 43. But remember, famous people are outliers. Okay, fine, not relevant. Average women will never enjoy the lifestyle, wealth, and freedom to choose the way she does. Again, not relevant, but more importantly, you just contradicted your own point in your own comment. The very first thing you said about Shakira was, she looks hot at 43. So it is about physical appearance, isn't it? All right, next comment. You are so off the mark here. I am? Let's find out how I'm off the mark. The wall is undefeated and it comes early for women. I didn't say the wall didn't exist. I didn't say the wall didn't come early. And let me say this again to be clear. I am not saying the wall doesn't exist. Yes, there is a wall for women and there is a wall for men, and yes, it hits women first. So you are putting words in my mouth. But I am troubled that you are even passively touting marriage for guys this point. I am in my 50s, millionaire, early retired, location dependent, and I have sugar daddy. Here we go. This is the exception. I have sugar daddy college girls and date several actively. That is wonderful for you. You are the exception. You're my age. I'm about to turn 50. You are the exception. The vast majority of men, including men in the red pill world who are your age, are not going to want to live that lifestyle. The one exception to that is right after a divorce. So if you have a guy who's 50 and he's been married for 15 years and he's been monogamous and he's been a beta and he's just out of a horrible divorce, yes, there will be a time where he lives that kind of lifestyle and bangs a bunch of young girls. He needs to go through that to get back to manhood. I went through that myself when I got divorced at age 35. That's different, but that's temporary. I promise you, by the time he's 53, 54, he is not going to be wanting to spend his time on seeking arrangement or Bumble or the dance clubs or doing day game, picking up 18-year-olds. He's not going to want to do that. And if he really wants to do that, at that age, after that long, he is a bizarre exception to the rule, as are you. This is the model I go for, and I think marriage is for idiots. Legal marriage is for idiots. You are correct. I don't tell men to get married. Women are not necessary for the long term. Again, most men your age would disagree with you. Now, you and I could have a discussion about whether or not that's a good idea. Maybe you should stay single into your 50s and 60s. There's arguments for that. That's not relevant. What's relevant is the vast majority of men in the red pill world, when they get that age, are not going to do that. So you're just talking out of your ass. You're talking about a very tiny sliver of men. If you meet the one who is a unicorn that enhances your life, great. But marrying what will become an older banshee, this wall guy again, an older banshee just to avoid dying alone is pathologically bad. I have written entire articles about exactly that, how the fear of dying alone is one of the stupidest things men experience. You are correct. We don't disagree. Never marry guys you've been warned. Correct. I've been saying for 15 years, don't get legally married. That's insane. You can move in with a woman without getting legally married. Yes. There are rare exceptions, but they're rare. So you said I'm off the mark, yet we don't disagree about anything. Okay, next comment. As a wall believer and someone who desires monogamy. Okay, so I have a feeling we're in for some more right-wing guy Disney. Let's see what happens. The wall is a concept that once a woman hits a certain age, she's going to define the wall yet again. Okay, fine. Usually around 30, there's no set age. Depends on the chick and how she handles herself. Her sexual market value rapidly drops and she's unable to get in relationships with higher value men than she get in the past. Yes. Irrelevant. Irrelevant to my point. The prevailing theory is not to date someone who has hit the wall because she will ultimately see you as someone who she settled for and her chances of having children decrease. That would only be valid if you want to have children or if you've already had children. So when I married Pink Firefly, I already had 2 kids. I didn't want any more. So I actively looked for a woman who didn't want any kids. Okay? So shock of all shocks, dude. I know this is a surprise to you, you more right-wing traditional guys. Some men don't want fucking kids. Lots of men who have kids shouldn't have had kids. Because when you ask most men, do you want to have kids? And I talked to a lot of men about this topic. Do you want kids? The typical answer is, well, okay, that means no. Okay, and that is usually the answer I get. I would say 80% plus of all the men I've talked to who don't yet have kids, when I ask them, do you want kids? Rarely is it, yes, I want kids. That's very important to me. I don't hear that. I go, well, I don't know, man. And I've written articles about that on my blog. So if you don't know if you don't want kids, you shouldn't have fucking kids. You're not ready and you'll be less happy when you have kids. I've also written those articles about when men have kids, their happiness drops and it stays low until the kids grow up and move out, then their happiness goes back up. I know facts are tough. I know you hate facts. I know you hate statistics. Again, it's the world you live in. Obviously, if you meet someone who hasn't hit the wall and you marry her, then this theory becomes void. Why? Incorrect. If you marry a hot 25-year-old, she's going to eventually hit the wall, right? Isn't the point of marriage, or let's take marriage out of it, settling down long-term with a woman, moving in with a woman in a serious long-term relationship, isn't the point of that to last the rest of your life, or at least many decades? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Therefore, if you marry a hot 18-year-old, or a hot 25-year-old, or a hot 29-year-old, she's going to eventually hit the wall. Now you'll be married to a post-wall woman. Now what are you going to do? You see my point? Moving on. Because that's your wife. No, your wife can still hit the wall. Whether or not she's your wife does not make her a proof against hitting the wall. I don't know what you're talking about. But you shouldn't be seeking someone who has passed the wall. I did. I'm very happy. I've been married 3.5 years, post-wall. Now, it's not a traditional marriage. That's a part a lot of you guys are missing. I am an OLTR marriage. That means my finances are protected and I fuck other women every week. See how this works? That's the ideal, or at least less bad, scenario for aging men. Unless you want to be single the rest of your life, but that's a very tiny category. So dating and marrying someone who has a decreased chance of having kids is foolish. Only if you want kids. Only if you want kids. And again, my question stands. Once your hot 25-year-old girl, whom you marry, has 2 kids, and now she's 35 and she's getting chubby and she's getting bitchy and she's getting wrinkles and she's got the saggy boobs and the flabby flab because of having 2 kids. Now what do? Answer the question. You won't answer the question because you know I'm right. What other point is there to marriage other than starting a family? That is an absolute right-wing Christian thing to say. I started a family, I don't want kids. And she doesn't want kids, and we're very, very, very happy together. If you want to start a family, that is fine. I'm not against you having kids. I had 2 kids. Children are wonderful as long as you can afford them. Also, I've done a video on how you need to be at least a millionaire before you have kids. Matter of fact, you can click that video right up there. In the modern era, in the collapsing Western world, having children is only for very high income, very high net worth men. So if you want to have kids, I hope you make a lot of money. I hope you make strong 6 figures and are worth at least 7 figures or what have you. So I'm gonna wrap up this video by repeating my question that none of you wall guys will answer. Tell me if you agree with me, I don't wanna hear your answer because I know your answer. It's OLTR marriage or something like that. If you agree with me on this topic, I don't need to hear your answer. You can leave it in the comments if you want. If you disagree with me about this and you are a hardcore wall guy, I want to know what your specific long-term plan is for the rest of your life, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. If a woman becomes less attractive when she hits around 30. What exactly is your long-term plan? And if you don't answer that question, you've just proven my point right. If you want to have sex with younger women, which is a great thing, you can click this video right here on 4 techniques on how to date younger women. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.